It's 1 in the morning. You're alone in your apartment. A knock at the door. You don't remember expecting anyone. You don't move. You wait. The knock comes again, deliberate, patient, like someone who has nowhere else to be and all night to wait. That's where our story begins. My name is Marcus Webb, and this is The Knock, a true account of something that happened 3 weeks ago in Colombo, Sri Lanka. Whether you believe it is entirely up to you. Let me start at the beginning. David Perera was 42 years old. He worked in finance. He lived alone in a modest apartment in Colombo 7. Nothing fancy, but it was his. He'd grown up in the neighborhood, lived in the house his parents left him. But 3 years ago, the property taxes tripled. Then the land prices spiked. His old house, worth maybe 2 million rupees, suddenly valued at 20. The municipality wanted him to sell. Developers circled like birds. He couldn't afford to keep it. So he sold, made decent money, bought an apartment instead. Smaller, newer, modern, sterile, he used to joke. But it had air conditioning, and it was his own. He'd been living there about 6 months when his cousin Ravi came to stay for a weekend. Ravi was visiting from Kandy. They went out for drinks, got talking, and at some point, David can't quite remember when, Ravi started telling him a story. Not to scare him, just as something to talk about. Something Ravi had heard from his grandmother. The story was about Kinduri. David had never heard of Kinduri before. He's not from a village. He's Colombo-born and raised. The folklore of his grandparents' generation felt distant, almost quaint. But Ravi told him anyway. In the old days, Ravi said, people in villages used to say there was a spirit, a demon, maybe, called Kinduri. She appears as a woman, pregnant, and she walks the streets at night, knocking on doors. David asked him why. That's the thing, Ravi said. No one really knows. Some people say she was a woman who died while pregnant, died badly, maybe murdered by someone, maybe just abandoned. And now she's angry. At men, specifically. At men? Yeah, that's the rule. If a woman opens the door when Kinduri knocks, she just disappears, fades away, no harm done. But if a man opens the door, Ravi paused. He looked at David. Then you're dead before the night is over. That's what they used to say. Dead before sunrise. No one knows why. No one knows what she does. But they know you don't answer the door if you hear that knock and you're alone. David laughed. He told Ravi he was being ridiculous, that people in villages believed in everything because they didn't have television, because they didn't know better. Ravi shrugged. He wasn't trying to convince David. He was just telling him the story. They finished their drinks and went home. David forgot about it, or thought he did. 3 nights later, David was asleep. He woke to a sound, a knock at the door. Just one, firm, not aggressive, not urgent, just a knock, like someone had raised their hand and struck the wood once, politely. David lay in bed. He checked his phone. 1:17 in the morning. Who the hell knocks at 1:17 in the morning? He got out of bed and went to the door. He looked through the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was empty. Just the corridor light, fluorescent and white. He went back to bed. 5 minutes later, another knock. This time, he didn't bother with the peephole. He stood at the door. Who is it? He called out. No one answered. Who's there? He called again. Nothing. He went back to bed. He told himself it was the wind, or a neighbor, or someone drunk in the wrong hallway. People do stupid things. It didn't mean anything. but his heart was beating faster than it should have been. He lay in the dark, listening. The knock came again. Same rhythm, same patience. One knock, then silence, then waiting, then another. David got up again. He opened the door. The hallway was empty, completely empty. No one, no sound, just the fluorescent light buzzing softly above the elevator. He closed the door, locked it. He stood there for a moment, not sure what to do. He went to the kitchen. He drank a glass of water. He told himself he was being paranoid. It was the city. Sounds travel. Echoes happen. He went back to bed. The knock came again. This time he tried to ignore it. He put his pillow over his head. He closed his eyes and willed himself to sleep. The knocking stopped. He lay there, waiting for it to come back. But it didn't. The silence stretched out. Minutes passed. 20, maybe 30. His heart slowed down. His breathing normalized. He fell asleep. In the morning, David told himself it was a dream. That was the easiest explanation. He'd been half asleep. His brain was making things up. The mind does that sometimes, especially when you've had drinks, when you've heard a spooky story. He went to work. He tried not to think about it. But at lunch, he found himself thinking about Ravi's story, about Kinduri, about the rule. If a woman opens the door, she disappears. If a man opens it. He told himself it was nonsense, rural superstition, nothing more. That night, he waited. At 1:17 again, the knock came. Same time, same rhythm, same patient, polite knock. This time, David didn't get out of bed. He lay there and listened. He counted the knocks. 4 times she knocked. Then silence. Then 4 times again. For 3 hours. Then it stopped. David did something he hadn't done since he was a child. He called his mother. He didn't tell her why. He just asked her if she remembered anything about Kinduri, if his grandmother had ever mentioned it. His mother went quiet. Then she said, "Why are you asking? Do you know the story? David, what's happened?" He told her about Ravi's story. He didn't mention the knocking. He just said that Ravi had told him something, and he wanted to know if it was real. His mother was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "It's not real. It's a story people tell, to explain things, to make sense of things that don't make sense." To explain what? Deaths, sudden deaths, young men, back in the village. They'd say, "He heard the knock. He should have known not to answer." It was a way of making sense of it. Making sense of what? What was killing them? His mother didn't answer. He called Ravi next. "Why didn't you tell me the full story?" David asked. Ravi said, "What do you mean?" "I mean, how many people died? Actually died. Is it something real, or is it just folklore?" Ravi took a long time to answer. Then he said, "I don't know, man. I was just telling you a story. My grandmother told it to me, but I don't know if it's real. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But in our village, nobody ever opens the door. When you hear that knock, you just don't answer. And if you do, then you'll find out, I guess." David didn't sleep that night. He sat in his living room with the lights on, waiting. At 1:17, the knocking started again. Same rhythm, methodical, patient, like she had all the time in the world. David stood up. He went to the door. He looked through the peephole. The hallway was dark, darker than it should have been. The fluorescent light above the elevator was off. He could see a shape in the hallway, blurred, indistinct, pregnant-looking, like a shadow with volume. Hair hung in front of her face. He couldn't see her eyes. The knock came again, and again, and again. Each knock was deliberate. Each knock was waiting for a response. David's hand moved to the lock. He thought about the story, about the rule, about what Ravi had said. Don't answer. But she wasn't going away, and he was alone in the apartment, and everyone else in the building was asleep, and she would keep knocking. His hand was on the lock now. He thought about what happens if he opens the door. He thought about what Ravi had said. You'll be dead before the night is over. He thought about the alternative. What happens if he doesn't open the door and she never leaves? What if she stays there, knocking, forever? What if she gets tired of waiting? The knocking intensified, not violent, just insistent. And David realized something. He didn't know if she was trying to get in, or if she was trying to keep him in. His hand was on the lock. The knocking stopped. The silence was absolute. David stood there, waiting, his hand still on the lock, his heart pounding in his chest. Then, very slowly, he heard something else. The sound of a lock turning. Not his lock. The lock in the door was still locked, but somewhere else. Another lock. Maybe a neighbor's. Maybe it was impossible. He stepped back from his door. He walked to his bedroom window. He looked down at the street below. Empty. Streets of Colombo. 7 at 1:30 in the morning. Closed shops. Sleeping buildings. The occasional stray dog. Nothing. He turned around, and his apartment door was open. Just open. Not broken. Not forced. Just open. Like someone had turned the knob and walked in. The hallway beyond was dark. Darker than it should have been. Darker than any hallway should be. And in that darkness, he heard breathing. Not fast. Not angry. Just breathing. Like someone who had been waiting a long time and was finally getting what they came for. David left the apartment. He ran. He called the police. When they arrived, they found the door open and nothing else. No sign of forced entry. No one in the apartment. Nothing disturbed. The police thought maybe he'd left the door open. Paranoia. City stress. Too many drinks. David moved the next week. Ravi stopped visiting Colombo. And somewhere in the city, in that apartment, or in the hallway outside it, or in the spaces between spaces that folklore understands better than we do, there is still a knock. One knock. Then silence. Then another. Waiting. Because Kinduri doesn't give up. She has nowhere else to be. She has all the time in the world. And one day, someone will answer.